Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first ever Acolyte analysis presented by page turners. They were not my Star Wars podcast. This is a spoiler review. It's not so much a review, it's just my thoughts on it. But there will be spoilers, so be warned. Yesterday after well, yesterday evening actually was the debut of The Acolyte, which is the newest Star Wars series. The first episode is called Lost Found. Now, let me just say that there were twists and turns in these episodes, and I wanted to point out that I saw the first teaser, and that's all I saw. I did not watch anything else, so I went in completely blind. I had ideas about where things were going, but there was a big swerve. Lots of swerves, I'd say. Um, that I did not see coming. Now, I'm not going to break down everything that happens. I did find it very fascinating that, Master Indara, played by the great Carrie-Anne Moss, like I said, it's a spoiler review. She gets killed in the first scene. That was like, whoa. Now, I imagine that that's not the last we've seen of her. Just a theory. I think there's going to be some flashbacks. This whole idea of something happened, and we don't know what or how, but another big surprise, to me at least. Well, so Amanda Stenberg plays um, twins, and I don't know if that was in the marketing or not. If it was, I missed it. So that was a surprise. But the idea that something happened with the two of them, where one of them supposedly had died in a fire, and the other didn't, and apparently, based on the little nuggets in information, the Jedi provoked something or did something. We don't know. And one of the things it reminds me of is The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, which is a 1962 John Ford Western, where, and the reason I make this comparison is at the beginning of the movie, you meet this old politician visiting the town that he lived in when he was a young man. And you see, based on all the people in the town, that something went down many years before. You don't know what, and then the movie goes back and tells you what happened those many years before. That we have a similar thing going on here where we've gotten a little bit of the nuggets of something happened. of something happened long time ago with these two characters involving the Jedi, involving the death of the girls' families, family, I should say. And I'm very interested to know what happened. And I love the way that they're leaving those little clues so you can start to put the puzzle together. And I really liked that decision. The writing of these two episodes, I thought was very good because it was very much, it's very straightforward, and I like that. The episode begins and boom, you are in the story. May shows up, fights Master Indara, kills Master Indara, and then we get to Osha on, oddly enough, a Trade Federation ship. And one thing leads to another. The murder leads to Osha's arrest. Osha, is part of the failed escape. Her old Jedi Master goes after her, so on and so forth. But what I mean to say is that the storytelling is very direct here. A leads to B, leads to C, leads to D. I'm enjoying the pace. And pacing can be very tricky. I think the pace that they have set here, which moves rather quickly, but not too quickly, feels like a proper Star Wars pace. So I love that. And I love that the writing is just very straightforward. As far as the story, you know immediately what the story is. And it's not episodic. This is a big story arc. So the sort of mechanical nature of one thing leading to another, I think it's going to play out in the show in terms of just a through line. And I like the fact that the story just feels like it's moving. And that one thing leads to another, and they don't waste any time getting there. And also the idea that every scene matters here. And it just moves at a pace that is in the ballpark of the original trilogy. And arguably the prequels, which had pretty good pacing. Now, speaking of the prequels, these two episodes of The Acolyte are so reminiscent to me of The Phantom Menace. And what I mean is that you got these worlds populated by wild-looking aliens, shitos, as they say, with characters in colorful costumes and interesting architecture. So every image really is magnificent because it is filled with such fascinating visuals. So it reminds me of how George Lucas would have made a show, I think. I think he would have made it as full of aliens and color. There's a lot of color in the show. And just creating that vibrant visual palette. But yeah, the look of the show is magnificent. It's absolutely stunning. The art direction and the costuming and other things I think are absolutely brilliant here because there's so much life to it. Now, in terms of the tone, I wasn't sure what the tone of the show would be. Would it be dark and gritty like Andor? Would it be, goofy or what? And to my surprise, it's actually rather light. I thought it would be a lot darker. Now, there's some stuff that's very dark, but there's also stuff that is very funny and very in keeping with the tradition of Star Wars. Um, and I like that because I didn't want it to be very dour, you know. I didn't really want to have a show that was dark and depressing and, you know, a slog to get through. And I don't mean a slug, I mean more of like where Andor is very emotionally draining. I was wondering, is this show going to do that? And that's where I know the tone feels like Star Wars. There's a lot of really goofy and silly moments and weird looking aliens doing weird stuff. In terms of humor, I mean, Daphne King is hilarious as Jackie. I think she's so snarky with Yord. It's so funny. Um, but speaking of characters, I think that even though we're only 2 episodes in, I am loving these characters. Lee Jung Jae as Master Soul. He is so charming in the role. He's very relatable. He feels very like Qui-Gon. He feels a little bit laid back. But also you can see that he is haunted by whatever happened. But he has a kind heart and he's willing to give Osha the benefit of the doubt when she is accused of murdering Master Indara. And I love just how compassionate he is. And very much kind. And he is the Qui-Gon of this group, I think. And as Qui-Gon's one of my favorite characters, anyone who's like him, I like. And I think Lee Jung Jae does a great job. Yeah, it's funny because Lee Jung Jae doesn't really speak English. I mean, he does, obviously, but he's not fluent in it, I don't think. But nonetheless, I think he does a great job with the dialogue in English. I really think that Charlie Barnett as Jord Thandor, oh my word. Jord is such a character because he is trying to be this like perfect, noble, impassive Jedi. But he's really like just a teenager, really. He just managed to get knighted, and now he's a full Jedi. And he kind of takes that almost too seriously. He's very by the book. And it's funny to watch him sort of put on a face. The very first scene we get of him, I love how he doesn't waste any time and uses the Force to get the Nemoidians to talk to him. And then he says, "Thank you for your cooperation." I thought that was perfect because he comes in, they're like, "I am an important Jedi," you know. Um, Look at me, I'm important. He had that feel. And the fact that he mind tricks the Nemoidians is very interesting because, as we see, the Jedi all seem to have very different ways of doing things. And the idea that you can just come in and get somebody to tell you something without actually like asking them, yeah, it's kind of, it demonstrates, I think, a weakness of Yord, that he might be a little bit full of himself and full of his ability. But I love that every once in a while you see a crack in the armor. Right, he's putting on this show, basically. But every once in a while, I think you see the real Yord slip through. And it's funny how Jackie, who is usually very respectful, is very respectful of her master, isn't that respectful of Yord. Because I think Yord is not much older than Jackie. So Jackie just gives him crap. Jackie is kind of the little sister who, gives him kind of a hard time. And that's great. I love the humor that comes from that. I love Manny Jacinto as Kinnear. I think he fits in this world so well as a disreputable apothec apothecarist. Is that a word? A trader of unique objects. And I really enjoy him because he definitely fits into that category of the rogue who's, a little bit on the, not necessarily evil, but definitely out for himself kind of guy. Now, what's interesting is, so he claims he's just a apothecary owner, but it seems like he's under the same influence that May is of this strange person called the Master. We see him at the end of the first episode. Um, Standing there in black armor, he's got a red lightsaber. The question is, who is this guy? And as far as who he is, I have no speculation. And whether or not he's a Sith, I have no idea. Now, May and Kamir are interesting because they're both interested in revenge. Now, Kamir claims that all he did was supply her with stuff. But I wonder how true that is. Now, one of the things I absolutely loved about the show, there were so many twists and turns that I did not see coming. And moments where you think it's going to go one way, but it goes another way. For example, they come into the room and there's Osha holding the poison vial next to, oh, I forget the name of the master, next to the Jedi Master who's dead. Now I'm thinking in my head, okay, they're going to go, oh, you've been caught red-handed, which is how it starts, and you think that's the way it's going to go. That it's like, she's going to get framed for that. But then it goes a different way because Yord said she didn't do it. I've been following her. I know what's going on. So kind of a lot of weird, like, things really not going the way anyone expected. And even things in the trailer that people are like, well, that's probably, like the little girl in the Jedi Temple who says icy fire. A lot of people, including myself, thought that was May as a little girl. Well, turns out it wouldn't have been May anyway, but it turned out, no, that was wrong. And things like that, where I think Leslie Headland is enjoying toying with the audience. But I think she's toying with us in a good way. Small role for Ernest Farrow. Rebecca Henderson, I believe it's Leslie Headland's wife, is playing Ernest Farrow. Now, for those who may not be aware, Vernestra is a character from the High Republic books. She's quite old now. Her species lives a long time. But she was a teenager in the High Republic books, which are about 100 years before this. By the way, I love that they started this show with those letters saying when this story takes place. Because for anyone out there who's not a High Republic, doesn't know anything about this era, it was good to have that description so that everyone, the people going in who have no clue, will see it and go, okay, I understand. The music I have to go back and listen to because it didn't particularly stand out to me. That doesn't mean it's not good. It's just I can't remember any of the musical themes. Uh, the last thing I wanted to talk about as we wrap up here is, there's so many things to talk about, and we could go on and on about this. It's very interesting to see this time period that the sky is the limit. They could do whatever they wanted to these characters because we have no idea in this time period. This is an open field. And they can do whatever in this open field. And I love that because it really gives them a freedom to really tell an interesting story that has nothing to do with what we have seen before. I mean, we definitely see the hubris of the Jedi here, which will eventually lead us to the prequel. Um, so we know what happens 100 years before this. That's the Hieroglyphic books. We know what happens 100 years after this. That's the prequels. So this is a very open book. And I think that what they're doing so far is wonderful. And like I said, I love the twists and turns. There are so many things and moments that are like, you think it's going one way and it goes another way. And I think that Leslie Helen should be applauded for that, for subverting our expectations. Well, that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about. I enjoyed these episodes immensely. Oh, there it is. One last thing, the fight choreography. The fight choreography here is brilliant. It's like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. It's like Jackie Chan movies. And I love the camera work during the fights. In a lot of movies, in a lot of shows, if there's a fight scene, the camera is going to be shaking constantly. Shaky cam, and the editor is going to go insane with cut, 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 and all of it shaking. So you wouldn't be able to see what the heck is going on. This is the complete opposite of that. You can see very clearly what's going on in these fights. The camera stays back. It cuts a few times, but not so many. So that we can actually see the action play out. And we can see exactly what's going on. And getting this wonderful wuxia inspired fight scenes that do remind me of the kung fu and wuxia movies. Like I said, Crouching Tiger really comes to mind. And so I really think that was a brilliant decision to incorporate the martial arts, but also to film it in a way that allows the martial arts to play out without us ever being lost as to what's going on. So all in all, I thought these two episodes were a brilliant debut for what I hope will be an excellent show. So those are my thoughts. Thank you for tuning in. to the very first Acolyte analysis. My name is Brendan Marv. That noise you're hearing is the ventilator. And thank you for joining me. As always, may the force be with you.